Hey everyone, it's Alden. Today I'm going to show you how we make mug handles from slabs of clay. This is an example of a bisque mug with attached handle. I think the thin shape of the handle goes well with the mug forms I like to make. I tried getting this shape with pulling, but it just doesn't come quite as clean and thin as I'd like. So I prefer making them out of slabs. I use my magical rolling pin by Joseph, which I got from Amazon to make slabs. You could remove and select the discs that coincides with however thick you want your slabs to be. For my handles, I use the 1/4 inch discs and roll my slab until the edges touch the surface. This rolling pin is amazing. I roll the slab with clay straight from the bag. Now that it's ready to go, I get a measuring tool to cut straight lines with, which in this case is a long strip of painter's tape that I folded in half and stuck together by the sticky sides. To cut strips, I use a regular fettling knife. The tape makes it easy for me to divide a slab because it's the perfect width for my handles, and the stickiness helps it adhere temporarily onto the damp clay. You could always use a ruler, but when in production mode, I found that this shortcut made things more efficient. Now I divided strips using a shorter strip of painter's tape that I used to roughly measure a good example as a guide. Note that clay shrinks, so give yourself a bit of extra wiggle room. Here I'm cutting off the edges to even them up a bit and make them easier to work with when I start attaching. I organize the clay strips like an assembly line. I take one and put it on top of a smooth surface, dampen it with a finishing sponge, and smoothen it with a rib, and again on the other side. I then grab my sponge again and round up all the edges. This is a very important step because it makes the handles nice to hold versus sharp and uncomfortable after it's glazed fired. After it's all smoothened out, I rest it over the rolling pin to act as a mold for a natural curved shape. When all of them are rounded and smoothened up, I leave them out and trim my mugs while they dry. It was fairly cold at this time, so it took about an hour for them to dry into the consistency I like. I wait until they are just a bit drier than leather hard. During this stage, they hold up their shape well, and when you manipulate them and attach them, they're not going to be flimsy. I cover up the rest of the handles to prevent further drying while I work on attaching. I work on a soft surface to prevent dings and keep the pot in place. You can see that the thickness of the lip of my pot matches the thickness of the handle. I think this makes them aesthetically pleasing and light. I use a few sculpting tools for cleanup, and again my handy dandy finishing sponge by Mud Tools. It's practically my other limb. I take the pot and try on the handle. If the handle is too long, I simply cut some clay off the sides for better proportion by just eyeballing it. When it looks right, I cut a slight curve for better fitting when I attach the ends on the curved walls. I do some try-ons, and when I find a good centered final placement, I outline the shape of the edges on the pot and score a bit past the outline with my needle tool. This makes sure the edges of the handle will adhere and prevent it from cracking as it dries. I dip the edges of the handle in water and soften it up a bit by pressing both sides. Then I score the edges, dip again, and attach. Don't worry about the clay bits, they actually turn into slip that helps the handle stick to the pot. I press the edges of the handle to mold onto the pot. I support the other side of the wall while I attach so that my pressure won't make the walls cave in. I take my sponge and sculpting tools to smoothen the slip into the crevices and make sure there is a clean transition between my handle and pot. Don't forget the insides. I go back and smoothen out the edges again and other dings and bumps that might have happened during handling. You might not need to do this much smoothing. It all depends on what clay body you are using and how particular you are. To finish it off, I smoothen the lip. 1 down, 7 more to go. I hope this tutorial helps you create thin handles of your dreams. Until next time.